I mean, if you look at the history of philosophy and you look at the history of religion and all the sages, I mean, at their essence, they talk about the importance of living virtue, living virtuous, being honest, being trustworthy, keeping your commitments, expressing, compassion and all those sorts of things. The history of the world is that. And, they've even done studies back on, when we were Aborigines, with rocks and sticks, and we all perceived that the people that were the most successful in those systems were the most aggressive and the biggest and the tallest and the strongest. And the studies are showing, the anthropologists have proven that the people that have tended to be the most successful in those environments, even when we were, cavemen, were those that had the strongest cooperative skills. And if you think about that, you can say, because a guy that's just coming and taking anything he wants from you, what happens when the tiger bites him? Oh, whatever, I don't, you go good. Charlie got bit, and he can finally die off and quit coming over and grabbing my food or taking my wife. And so the natural DNA and the natural gene pool work more towards the cooperative systems. And so when you look at what has worked historically in the economic world, companies that have tended to thrive, naturally there's always going to be exceptions to every rule, or companies that have probably not been, where ethics have not worked, or they've been very Machiavellian in their orientation. But if you look at the history of the world, it's tended to be the companies that tend to think that basically keeping their commitments, making products and services that people want and need, being honest about it, has been what's caused sustainability in business. And if we look at our personal lives, and we look at it as a financial, when we're doing financial planning for ourselves, and you take those same concepts or those same themes, you want to make sure that you're building your life around sustainability. So that means having an education that's going to give you skills that you can sell in the marketplace to provide income for yourself. That's being reasonable about what your needs are. If you have very, very high expensive needs and you want to live in the very large house and drive new things and have lots of affluence, then you have to say, okay, I better make sure that I have developed my skill set in an area that is going to provide that kind of income. And that's fine. So I remember giving a talk to the largest nonprofit board that was before the strategic planning in Wisconsin. And they worked with the poorest of the poor in Wisconsin. And I said, how do you talk, looking at it from a market point of view, do you ask your people you serve, what would you like? They said, no. I said, well, let's just dialogue about that. So what would you like? And the person said, well, I'd like a house. So you'd like a house, write that down. Well, how many bedrooms do you want? Well, I want 3 bedrooms, of course, for me and my 2 kids. What else you want? I want a refrigerator. What else you want? I want all the appliances, all this cool stuff. What else you want? I want a new car. What else you want? I want a TV with cable. What else you want? And you know where I'm going with this. And then say, let me show you how to get that. And so that's what economics is. But often we're doing that personally. What do I want my life to look like? And then we have to say, how do I structure my life in order to get what I want, and at least in the physical or whatever. And so and really I think that the being rich part and the part about being financially successful is the easy part. Because it's easy to be rich. You live in your mom's basement, save every nickel, never go on a date, never marry, never have a relationship, save everything, mooch off your friend's TV, work 3 jobs, and you'll have all the money you want, but is that a rich life? No, that's not a rich life. If you talk to people really about what's meaningful for them, is a relationship life. Those relationships are what bring meaning to our lives. I don't find many people that say what really brings a lot of meaning to me is the stuff that I own. Very, very few people will have that for very long. They will for a while sometimes, but not very long. What will be important to them is their relationship life. And so where virtue comes in all of this is saying, how do I create a life that nurtures the relationships that I want in my life? And to me, the essence of financial planning is saying, what do I want out of my life? What do I want about my relationship life? How do I want to spend my time? And then realizing that I'm going to have to make sure that the mortgage payment gets paid and I have a house and I have food. on the table, and I do like to travel or whatever those things that we want to do. What is that going to cost? And then there's a balance. And the hardest thing, and the one thing that philosophers have talked about for ages, is balance. Straight and narrow gate of Jesus. Buddha talked about balance in every chat he ever gave, and that's the hardest thing. And that balance is different for everybody. And the problem with that balance being different for everybody is it changes because it's situational. I have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old, a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old, and Amy wants to see me too, my wife. And so trying to balance all of that with business and everything, the thing has to give. And so to me, balance would be being able to have like 5 consecutive hours of sleep would be really great. Well, that wouldn't have been what I was thinking about a few years ago, and we're naturally, so that yin and yang of the world, flows back and forth. I was on at a tour, an interpreter when I was in Beijing, that we went up to see the Great Wall, and so I said, "What's yin and yang? What's yin and yang?" And so he said, "Oh, that's very simple, Paul." He said, "When you are married, you don't want to be married. When you aren't married, you want to be married." He said that was his description. And so we often want what we don't have, or don't want what we have, and so it's always that natural tension or conflict, and that's just normal. So it's embracing all that with a smile and saying, how do I arrange things? And the book Virtue of Wealth, because we all have holes in our education, tries to give information so the person that doesn't really understand how to manage debt or their credit cards gives information on that really doesn't understand investing or how to do the investing bit or their 401k, helps them with that, doesn't really understand insurance or whatever, so that they have at least an understanding so that they can have good conversations with their advisors and good truthful conversations and find good advisors. And so that's how that all works. Well, I'm a certified financial planner. I used to teach for the College of Financial Planning back in the 80s. I've written a number of books on financial planning. I used to be the financial editor for Physicians Management magazine. I wrote Zen Investing but what's most important is does what I say make sense? There's a lot of experiences, or being in the business 25 years is great, but a lot of people have been in business 25 years or 35 years, but they've had the same year of experience year after year, so there's been no evolution, or there's been no change or no growth. And so the key is, has it been real learning? Has there been really learning happening? There's a story of the person that you can milk a cow's horn forever, you're not going to get any milk. And so a lot of people are doing that. They're wondering, well, why do I have the same effect? I'm doing this really good, and I'm doing it hard, and I'm working my butt off. So you have to make sure that is your practice being effective?